Hey guys, Nayo A Photo here. Thanks so much for being here, and I'm super excited about this one. We're gonna be killing two birds with one stone today. I've been wanting to test out this new backdrop that I've gotten, so I was able to take some photos with it last night. I think they came out pretty cool. They got my face in it, so. But also, I've been wanting to really show you guys how to post process. Well, how I post process from beginning to end. So we start off with the color grading process, and then we go into retouching, and then we go into the final pieces, the final cleanup. All right. Super excited about this, and I really appreciate your support. All right. Let me know if you have any questions as usual, and let's jump in. Okay, so I have the photos pulled up here. I've already gone through and culled them down into three that I thought were usable for this. So here we go. All right, and we are working in Capture One Pro today. I really love this program. I started off with Lightroom, but I went to a photography program and they introduced me to Capture One, and ever since I've been hooked. All right, so let's go ahead and talk through some of the first steps I like to take when I have a raw image. So none of these images have been touched at all. They're all in their raw state. Let's go ahead and get started. I think we're going to work with this one mostly. All right. So we start here. If you've never been in Capture One before, you can definitely do all of the same things in Lightroom or any raw processor that you may be working with. But if you do have any specific questions, I have used Lightroom myself. So go ahead and ask, drop a comment below, and I'll be happy to respond. Okay, so what I like to do first is mess around with the exposure tab in Capture. All right. So right now, this is exactly how it came out from camera. And the colors look pretty good. The lighting is pretty good, not overexposed, not underexposed. We're in a pretty good spot. But, with color grading, it's not necessarily about, is the picture proper? It's about what you want to see in the image. And personally, I would like to see if I can get this to be a little bit brighter. This is why I bought this background. I really wanted to get that, heavenly, cloudy, bright effect going on. So let's go ahead and bump this background up a little bit and see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm a fan so far, but I don't want to get too crazy. Let's go ahead and leave it about right there. And I do want to dial back the saturation in the photo just a little bit. -10 should be good. All right, and I always like to do it before and after, so I know if I'm getting crazy. Okay, so I'm happy so far. Let's go ahead and increase the contrast as well. Let's bump that up to +5 here. All right, I'm good with the exposure, so we can go ahead and leave that alone. Actually, let's see what that looks like, increasing that just a tiny bit. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Before, after, so just a little bit brighter, a little bit less saturated, and I'm happy with the direction so far. I'm not going to mess around with high dynamic range, but here's what it does if you haven't used it before. The highlights will preserve, quote unquote, the highlights. Dragging it up will bring the intensity of the highlights down, like so. So you see like the brightest parts of the image become a little bit darker. And then the shadow is going to preserve the shadows. You don't want to see, when you have extremely deep shadows and you want to see some more detail in it, this is where you would go. So this is going to bring up the shadows, but I'm not a fan of doing things like that. Oof, what is that? Whoa. Yeah, we are gonna have to jump in there. I actually think that I'm gonna bring that up just a bit. I kind of liked what it did with the shadows, actually. I'm not gonna lie to you. So this is why we try things out. I'm gonna bring that up to about a plus 10. I'm still happy with the bright highlights. So again, before, after. Cool. All right, let's jump over into our curves. All right, so working in the RGB layer, this is where you kind of mess around with the contrast, the lightness, darkness, you know, of the image. Most of the time, I'll just go ahead and throw in a S curve right there, maybe something like that. Oh, just kidding. Did that backwards. I think we went a little crazy with this. All right, now let's see how we've gone. Okay, so I'm liking the dynamic range of it so far. We've really brought out the highlights and the shadow detail is still there. So now let's go ahead and mess around with the color layers in levels. So first with the reds, I usually like to bump this up just a little bit. And we can bump it up crazy so you can see what that would look like and then draw it back until we're happy. And that feels decent. So here's kind of where I like to get the skin tone. I'm mainly focusing on this area to see what color I'd like to focus on. So messing with the greens, you know, magenta, opposite of red. If you pull it down, you add magentas to your image. If you pull it up, you're adding greens to your image. I really liked that magenta effect. Let's go ahead and add them to our shadows here. Just a bit. Let's not get crazy. And let's drag that back out. Okay, so we added just a bit of magenta to the skin tone. Yeah, I think I'm happy there. Okay, lastly, we're in the blues. Opposite of blue, yellow. So you drag the blue down, you're adding yellow to your image. Drag the blue up, you're adding blue. All right, and here we are looking to add those yellows mainly to the skin tone once again, which is going to be in the shadow area near the bottom. Okay, so that is doing it for me. And we drag the blues up into the highlights, which really works because we have a blue background here. Okay, so before, after, before, after. Lastly, I like to mess with the color balance in the image. This is going to be in the color section. All right, so with this section, you're able to add colors individually to the shadows, the midtones, or the highlights. In this particular case, I think we're going to be going orange in both the shadows and the midtones, and then blue into the highlights. But let's try it out and see if we like what's going on. Again, all of this is really about your preferences. So one trick that you can do, go ahead and bump the effect all the way up and then just go around the circle and see until you are happy. I saw something cool in there. That right there. That looks really good in the skin. I really like that actually. Let's drag that effect down though. So we ended up going into the oranges and the highlights as well. So let's see about the midtones. So I was thinking we were going to go into the oranges here. So I think about there is where I was thinking, but let's drag it around once again. right, shadows up next. Let's jump that all the way up like we did. And you see exactly what that is impacting already. A lot of this is where, if I'm going for a film effect, this is an awesome place to get that going for you. You can do some crazy kind of cross processing effects where you have different colors in different areas like this. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard. Is this where we're going? All right, let's keep that in mind and let's keep going. Oh yeah. Let's drag that effect down until we are happy. Let's look at the before and after. Before, after, before, after. So what do? We color graded this image from scratch. All right. This is what we started out with. You know, it's a little bit darker. We went ahead and increased the brightness of the image, get that background popping a little bit. And then we also decreased the saturation. I always like to start out there. From there, we jumped into the dynamic range. We pulled up those shadows a bit so that we can preserve some of that detail in the darker areas of the image. And then we jumped into curves. In the curves, we kind of just tweaked around with it until we got the skin color that we liked. All right. And then from there, made some final adjustments in the color balance. We were able to separate the midtones, the highlights, and the shadows. And what we did, we added some oranges into both the midtone and the highlights. We went a little bit heavy-handed on the midtone area. And then in these shadows, we went ahead and added some blues. Now this was a bit unconventional, but I really liked the way that it looked. And that is all that matters. Do you like the image that you ended up with? And I do. So this is what we have so far. I'm going to go ahead and take this adjustment, hit Command Shift C in Capture One, and then you can go over here to this tab, take off your composition because you don't want to apply crops to other images, and go ahead and hit Command Shift V to paste it. Command Shift V. And now all your images are going to have that adjustment. I'm super happy with this. Thank you all so much for being here. In the next video, I'm going to take these photos and hop them over into Adobe Photoshop, and we're going to start retouching. I hope to see you here next week. Thanks so much for being here once again. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see how I finish these images up. I'm super excited. I know this is going to be really cool.